It was a con job. Affordability, they call it, was a con job by the Democrats. The Democrats are good at a few things: cheating on elections and conning people with facts that aren't true. They said, "Oh, I don't want to talk about affordability." The reason I don't want to talk about affordability is because everybody knows that it's far less expensive under Trump than it was under sleepy Joe Biden. And the prices are way down.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. What we are seeing is the slow breakup of the Republican Party, because it turns out it's no longer really a party with a coherent set of ideas and policy goals. It's a cult. And one of the things that every cult has in common is a leader insulated from reality. That's what you see here. Donald Trump is unable to admit to or even confront the reality of what he has done to America's economy. And for the cultists, well, for a while at least, they might derive a sense of belonging, but cults as organizations don't actually solve problems. They just serve the few at the top. As we begin to understand the nuances of the recent elections, one thing is becoming clear. The cult of Trumpism is collapsing. Most of us expected New Jersey and Virginia to go blue, but even in Mississippi, Dems broke the Republican supermajority. You heard me right. Mississippi. I am as shocked as you are, and I say this as someone who spent my formative years next door in Alabama. My guest today grew up in the Mississippi Delta and is one of the most compelling voices out there when it comes to reaching those flippable Southern voters. You may already know him as Defiance 13. His poetic rants have gained millions of views across social media. Here's my conversation with Robert Arnold. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. I am so lucky to have Robert Arnold with me today. He's a Southern poet raised in the Mississippi Delta who now calls, am I right, Little Rock, Arkansas home, where he opines on matters political and non-political, but has really captured the voice of the disaffected but thoughtful white man in the South who is not Trumpy.
The good thing is I've always been very open about my political feelings. I don't suffer a lot of bullshit. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but I don't suffer a lot of that. I won't listen to somebody be ignorant and spout an opinion that is just completely off the rails without having something to say about it. I do think there's a bit of a tide turning amongst people that don't necessarily care for some of the roughshod governance that he's pulled lately, and so you hear a little bit of that in the coffee shops and at the golf course and things. And when those old men start turning on him, you know that it's gotten you've ruffled the wrong feathers. I do think that there's going to have to be one thing that they can attach themselves to that is not fully. They're afraid of Bernie Sanders. They're afraid of Mamdani because they just don't understand it. They're actually really close. I think they would be fine with it if they just ever paid attention. But so they need something that is almost Democrat light that they can kind of, ride a little bit without feeling like they've given up everything. I was talking with Mike Madrid the other day, and I'm at a point now where I don't know what role conservatism even has in modern politics anymore. It just seems like it's outlived its usefulness.
It doesn't have a role in the Republican Party. That's for sure. Yeah. We just had Adam Kinzinger on, who made the point very convincingly that as liberal as the Democratic Party is, it is more conservative today than the Republican Party. When you look at individual liberties, when you look at national defense, when you look at trade, the Republican Party has abandoned every principle it used to hold on the most important issues that defined it. So I think you're right. Conservatism has become almost entirely cultural, which does not bode well for its future, given how retrograde and mean cultural conservatism has become.
I don't even know where it goes from here. I know where it can go, but I don't know how many. You're not going to get a generation out of it for sure. You can't. You just can't you can't put that many people in jail. Like, you can't cut yourself down that far. So I don't know what happens with it. I would like to think that they get closer to like a Lockean liberalism, like a, progressive but property kind of thing. But I don't know that they ever get there either. I don't know. I just do not. I don't understand. I mean, obviously, modern conservatism and Burke conservatism are different things, but I don't know. Whatever they're doing over there just is. It feels like and I've used this term before, but it feels like the dog that caught the car. They don't know what they're doing anymore. It's just.
Yeah. Well, they were given everything they asked for with Project 2025 and all three branches of government. I'm throwing the Supreme Court under the bus, right? They still might be a bulwark. We got a couple cases coming up that'll test that, but they got the House, they got the White House, and given all that power, they showed America what they're actually about, and America rejected it. Hey everyone, quick break to tee up a trailer for a new show that I have been dying to tell you about. Chris Goldsmith, audience favorite here, is launching his own podcast. Enjoy.
This is On Offense, and I'm Chris Goldsmith, combat vet, anti-fascist investigator, and founder of Task Force Butler and Veterans Fighting Fascism. I've spent years infiltrating extremist movements, exposing fascist street gangs, and organizing other veterans to stand up for democracy. And now, we're living in a reality where those same far-right maniacs are getting embedded throughout our federal government. That's why I'm bringing my work here. Raw, direct, unfiltered. Every week on Offense, I'll break down what's happening behind the closed doors of hate groups, how extremist groups are getting closer to real political power, and what it's going to take to stop the next wave of political violence. You'll hear from organizers on the front lines and from veterans who know what real service to country looks like. On Offense is for anyone who's ready to fight for democracy. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to watch our videos, make sure you're following Valor Media Network on YouTube. America's in a fight for its future. Let's go on offense.
And to your point about how long they can keep going, I mean, the coming generation has no faith in their vision. As much attention as like Turning Point USA and that movement gets, if you look at the swing in the recent elections among young voters in particular, conservatism has lost them, right? They don't want what the Republican Party is selling. So unless the Republican Party reinvents itself, it has a 10-year future if they're lucky.
I think that they are making a lot of noise with a lot of young white men. Probably those guys aren't voting. I mean, I know those guys and they're not voting. I'm just to be honest with you. They'll put a flag up and run and slap that shit on the side of their truck and be assholes about it. They will, because that's fun. Going to a voting booth and putting something on paper is not fun. They're not doing it. So I think it's just a loud minority of people at this point. In my opinion, there's just nothing about being inherently just white and male that is anything really to be proud of. It just on its own. You didn't do anything. You just opened your eyes one day and that's what you were. And I think with their social, it is a particular class. It is a certain tax bracket and below that is mostly what they're looking at. I don't know that they have a lot to fight for. They don't feel like they've been given a lot to fight for. And here is this thing that they can attach themselves to. And all of a sudden now they have this identity. It's like boat people. They get a boat and now all they talk about is the boat. It becomes kind of that whole personality. And so they get this Trump thing and this MAGA thing, and it's a prepackaged personality. Like, here you go, be this. And there's a bunch of other people that are that. And I think that's what I really do think that's what it is. It's like a fraternity for young, white, almost poor kids.
Unpack that, because that is really insightful, and I can relate because it speaks to my experience in the military, which was its own kind of identity and fraternity, but usually had far more positive aspects and outcomes. But this idea of the diehard Trumper as just seeking a community and not really drawn to the ideology, but, drawn to the swag and
it's a uniform. It really is a uniform. Yeah. I mean, it's a red hat and a t-shirt and a flag, and it is well marketed. There's nothing, you cannot deny that it is well marketed. And it's this kind of strongman disruptor to the system. Not your typical politician. I'm brash and I'm crass and I say what I want to, kind of thing. And when you have a generation that I feel like has not been given much opportunity to develop a character and personality, because it's all online, everything's online. You're not getting out a lot and making these deep-rooted connections with people over art and things if that's not something that you're exposed to regularly. And so you find this group of people that all of a sudden you're the top of the heap in that group. You are white straight man, like you are straight to the top for no reason. And it's an appealing call, I think, for people that are feeling kind of discarded by society or discarded by their typical social groups. They put on the hat and the shirt and grab the flag, and all of a sudden now they belong to something, regardless of how shitty it is or how cruel or doesn't make any sense. They don't care. It's something to talk about. That's why I don't really think they're voters. I think that's just what they want to do.
I'd love your perspective on the next standard bearer, because I think you're right that Trump is now seen by enough people on the right as part of the swamp himself. I think the Epstein file story is going to have staying power, but it doesn't mean the extremism that he brought to the surface is going away. It's going to be inherited, and someone else is going to grab the torch. I mean, do you think it's Tucker? Do you think J.D. Vance can pull it off? Who runs away with it when people tire of Trump?
Well, I know what they're going to try to do, I think. And then I would tell them what they probably should do if they wanted to keep any semblance of that sort of party. And you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I think they're going to try the J.D. Vance route. They've tried everything else. They've tried putting both Trump boys up there. Nobody likes them. They're discarded immediately and discredited. They tried Stephen Miller for a couple of weeks, and nobody wants that. J.D. Vance is very unpopular, but he's the most popular of that group. I think he's the torchbearer. Mike Johnson ain't going to be it. Nobody really wants him. If they had any sense, the Republican Party would let MAGA die out and start looking to the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, Thomas Massey, and dare I say Josh Hawley's, that are a little more, they've kind of become a little more reasonable in what they want and have kind of recentered themselves in constitutionality and things. I may disagree with them politically or from a policy perspective, but I think those people you can have conversations with. I think those types of Republicans are the ones that you can work with across the aisle and get some things done and actually govern, as opposed to this. The only policies that are moving forward are the ones by the people in charge. Whoever's got control it's going to be a Republican agenda, or it's going to be a Democrat. It needs to kind of be split, truly. But if they were smart, that's the way they would go. But they're not smart. They want other stuff done. They're not interested in governing. They want a bunch of power for a long time. So I think they'll go the J.D. Vance route. I don't see anybody else.
We'll see. Well, Robert, great having you on, man. Let's talk again soon.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.